Okay, so I want you to notice that my setup has changed just a little bit. So instead of having the painting laying flat, I have it upright. And I'll do this when I'm trying to get an understanding of what this is going to look like when it's hanging on the wall. When I'm concentrating looking at it straight down, looking down on top of it, I don't always see things that I do when I set it up and have it in a vertical orientation. So let me get you kind of caught up with a little bit on where I am. So in the last video, you saw a time lapse, literally just me kind of mapping out, working some things out, having made some adjustments, and coming in, adding some kind of implied shadows to make these have that kind of three-dimensional impact or effect. It's not perfect. I'm not trying to make it be. This is not a realistic image for those of you who are coming in here and are going to tell me, well, technically speaking, this would be here. Yes, I know that. That's not the purpose behind this. So if I was really looking at this from an orthographic standpoint, this shadow would be all the way out here, and I'd have to bring this back, and I'm missing a sliver of it from here, and come down here, it would be up here. Same thing goes for this one, orthographic view. Come down here, come out here. That one's probably about right, but the angle's a little off. Okay, I'm not interested in that. For those of you, this is more of an impressionistic abstraction of a set of standing stones. For those of you who are really into realistic work and are looking for very specific set details, this is not the place for you. Okay, I will drive you absolutely bonkers because I only kind of give that a passing credit. Now, I made some adjustments up into the sky. It ended up being a little bit darker, which is fine, but I have more texture and a little bit more depth in here now. One of the things that you can't see, so in the last video I used a mouth atomizer, which is one of these, and I added a fine spray of an iridescent silver, and it's really a gouache. So this is a schminky gouache. I just made it, extra runny, if you will. I was trying to get some with some of the other watercolors that I have. It just did not work. It did not give me the layer of texture. So I realized in looking through my stash of supplies, I don't have the paint that I normally use for that. I usually use a liquid acrylic, and it's one of the latter things that I put on. But I feel I'm getting to where I really like the sky. I like the depth of the texture. I like the additional color in here. So I've got some of the purples blend in here. I really like the fact that this is darker. It allowed me to kind of correct some of that really intense green that had come in here. This is kind of nice and lighter, but it brings up some of this additional texture. So I'm okay with that. And I'm going to kind of maintain that. I'm going to kind of keep it the way it is. I also like the kind of the halo effect I got around some of the stones. Now this one, it kind of bled in a little bit here, but that's an easy thing for me to come in here and just blend that in. Okay, so now how am I working? I just stubbed my toe on my easel. Ouch! All right, so now how am I functioning? So I'm using my watercolor palette now, and one of those watercolor. Oh, hi! I like how you can't see what I'm doing when I'm trying to show you this. So I'm using my watercolor palette, and I'm using my pen. I love these things. I love these watercolor paintbrushes that has the water in it. Oh my goodness, saves me so much time. And this is a Lucas palette. Again, I share with you the brands that I use. I don't get any benefit or kickback or anything like that. I don't have, here's where you can find it on Amazon. I don't have any of that. This is just for your benefit, that if you're interested in learning how, some of these videos are kind of incorporating a learning about how to, but for the most part, it's just I'm painting and you get to see this thing evolve over time. So one of the things that I want you to notice is that from the last video, I was coming in and playing and adding in, I was correcting, I took out a stone that I had here, and it just didn't look right. So I removed it. I've strengthened some of the color. I've added some of this kind of ochre yellow in some places. one of the things that I realized is that there's a little bit of like a red, and there's some right here, and so I'm going to try to use my fingernail to get some of this off. And there's some red that has flecked in here a little bit. Doesn't bother me too much, but sometimes when I come in here and then add water over the top, I get little red splotches when I don't want red, and I'm going in and trying to have to correct it and pull it out so that you don't see red. Having an image upright like this allows you to see really what somebody who has it on a wall is going to see. It gives you that other perspective. One of the best things that you can do, now I wear glasses, but one of the best things that you can do is stand across the room, prop your painting or image up so that it's flat, because that's how it's going to be viewed. That's the one thing you have to remember, is that whenever you're painting and you're looking down on it, that's not how it's viewed. It's viewed hung on a wall. So if you want to know what it's going to look like or how somebody's going to perceive what it looks like, put it vertical and step away from it. It allows you to pick up and see things that you wouldn't normally. And for someone like me with glasses, as I mentioned, I can remove my glasses, which I know you can't see me doing, but here I'm taking my glasses off. It then makes it fuzzy. There's a benefit to that. So when it's fuzzy, I am not necessarily identifying or discerning specific shapes, but I can see color patterns, and I can see perhaps where I need to, like, this is kind of weird. There's this lighter section here, but this is all predominantly darker, so it's kind of strange that that's really pale. This is okay. It's kind of that yellow-green, and it's lighting up, and it's lighting up, and it's lighting up, and then it's darker over here, a little bit of light here. That works, but this looks a little funky, okay? So because that looks a little funky, I can, hey, put my glasses back on, and then, now I can see, okay? So I've got a lighter section here. So what I'm going to do is on my palette here, I'm going to pick up some paint, and I'm going to mix it on my palette. Okay, so I would probably horrify most people. When I paint with my palette, I don't always clean my brush in between colors. It's really bad form, because then when I try to come back in, then I've got a color on top of a color. So I really don't recommend it, but it's habit at this point. I mix the color that I'm looking for on my palette. I tend to have a section where I have greens, a section where I have yellows, pinks, blues, purples, some iridescent colors. I think I've shown y'all something with my palette before. And then this is going to allow me to come in and now darken this space. It's still not quite dark enough. I'm going to come in here. Oh, there we go. So a little bit better. Okay. Oh, we got a little phthalo in there. So one of the things that I've mentioned before is that color theory plays a really big role in the way that I work. So if you are kind of new to watercolor or wanting to look at kind of this technique that I use, it's, like I said, it's a little different because I don't, I kind of mix my paint with water in a trash bag. I do not, oh, hello. Oh, that's because you're lighter. Makes sense there. Taking that up, which then leads into that, which is great. I need you to be darker. Yep. What are you? Oh. Ew. Okay. Well, I just made mud. But it might be useful mud. So let's see. Sometimes mud is kind of handy. There's a green mud, but it's still kind of a muddy color. let's see what I can do if I can use that to deepen some of this. When you mix your color in such an abstract way, right? I'm not the one who's mixing the color. I am using a tool, right? A trash bag to do that for me. It can become interesting. You know what? I think that's green. Oh, it is. Oh, I just found my other green. Yay. Okay, I was looking for that. I wonder I couldn't find you. You're not right. I'm on a weird spot on my palette. Dig in here and put you on straight. Nice thing also about these is that I just keep paper towels on my work surface, and then I just wipe this off on my paper towels on my work surface. Squeeze out a little bit of water. I can clean out my brush in a couple of moments. Now, since I'm still working in green, I just made sure that it went to just a light green, and I can move on from there. I'm going to pick up some of that ochre color that I had a minute ago. Ooh, okay. Ooh, that's kind of nice. It's got kind of like a greeny tinge to it, but I'm going to pick that up. Whenever I introduce a color that I haven't used on here, I move it and I bring it around my painting. You don't just want that to be in one place, right? It helps, color helps move your eye around the painting so that you can guide your viewer to have an experience, right? You want them to see throughout. And sometimes, like over here, by adding some of this yellowy ochre color that I put in here, I'm going to bring the eye up over here. I'm going to keep this light, and I'm going to work on lightening this up a little bit so that I can then pull the eye back over here and then back around. Right? While it is a circular image, I also want to pull that kind of little bit of that circular eye movement to move people around my painting so that what they see, right? That is my job as the artist. I want to guide the person who sees my painting. I want to be their guide. And if I'm not doing my part, I'm not being a very good guide. Right? And because I've done that, I want to kind of come in here and I'm going to mute. I've got that same yellow on my brush, but I want to take it now and add a little bit more green. It's a nice bright color. I'm going to incorporate that into these areas of lightness. Again, so I can move that color and have this move across the painting. I don't know if it's considered good etiquette or not, but it's just something I've learned from art classes in college and from just painting in general over the years. I'll keep coming back in and picking up a little bit more of that bright green. Now, and I have to be careful because, again, this is watercolor and I've got this on an upright surface. If I had a class of students here, I'd be like, and why is that going to be a concern, folks? How about because it's watercolor and it's going to now drip down the painting, and unless you want drips, not going to be so cool. So that is a thing that you have to pay attention to when you shift your painting and work vertically, and you are doing something like this where you have a where you're working vertically with watercolor. Yeah. All right, so what I've done is I picked up, this is a lot of phthalo blue up in here. It's got a lot of blue in there, but it's very bright. And so I'm going to come in here and I'm just going to enhance some of that. Some of it's a little paler than I want it to be. So I want to kind of give it a little bit of a wash. I don't want to remove any of the texture that's been added, but I want to enhance that green. And then I'm going to take and bring some of that into here. Okay, remember, you just kind of move that over and around your painting. You don't want to ever just leave it in one spot when it's in one. Now, of course, I say that. You can. A lot of times we'll use like a bright color, a contrasting color to highlight. An area or a section that we want to be highlighted. Bring that down there. Bring a little bit of this in here. I'm going to bring some of that phthalo up in here. Now notice I'm really not doing anything texture-wise to the stones. Frankly, I went in, I used that alcohol technique to give me kind of these splotches that are very random. I realized that, okay, y'all, I haven't figured out how to zoom in for you on this other than to move my picture forward. My camera is not, if I pull it forward, it's going to come off of its base where I have it. I've got a spring arm holder for it. This is very modeled in appearance, and I like that. I've gone in and I've layered in some lighter colors and some darker colors. So up close, right, this has a great deal of texture. When I take my glasses off, what's providing the texture is the variation in the spots. Like when I take my glasses off, I can see like this is more solid, spot, solid. This has lots of solids, very light. This is heavy, dark here, leading up to light. This one is kind of the best one in terms of the gradation of lots of spots to kind of a darker. And it helps me so that when I put my glasses back on, I'm not over here trying to interfere and impede. At this point, anything done with these needs to be done with a watercolor pencil and not necessarily adding water over the top, but just using the watercolor pencil to add layers of color. Not necessarily, though, blending that in and actually adding water so that it melts, if you will. So this one isn't super long. It's hard for me to actually do this realistically really well. I'm going to give you an idea of what I would normally do to set up, but I wanted to record at least a portion of this for you so that you can get an idea of what this looks like. Normally, when I'm not trying to record, this is further away from me so that I can step back and move in, step back and move in. It is a much better way to paint when you're looking at, am I close to being done? How much more do I want to do? How much texture do I want to add? How much variation do I want to add? When I'm starting to look at those kinds of questions, I need to be able to have that back and forth movement visually so I can kind of see that. That's not so easy to record, folks. It really isn't. And then it doesn't make much sense because this is then farther away from you, so you can't really see what I'm doing in the first place. And then I'm just kind of in and out of frame, and sometimes I'm standing in front of it, and then you can't see anything but my back, and that's just not we don't need to do that. So anyway, I hope that this helps you. I'm going to be continuing to work on this. It will be off camera, so that I can really kind of get it to where I need it to be. And then I will come back. When you come back again to this painting, you're going to see me working on details, and I'll have that flat for you again so that you can see that. I hope that you found this part to at least be educational in some form to help you with your own painting. And so I really I realize I may not have told you this yet, but those of you who are following along on this journey with me, thank you. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to watch this and see about watercolor painting. Again, this is kind of two purposes for me. One, I hope it encourages you to look into painting. The techniques that I show you on here are things that anybody can do. I have some other paintings, some smaller paintings that I'm going to work on, and then you'll really be able to see, like sometimes I'll do something with paper, and I'll see if I can't video that for you, where I'll lay out multiple, I get my watercolor paper on a board, right? And this is, I typically use Arches watercolor paper. This one happens to be rough. You can get cold, you can get smooth, you can get rough. I will lay these all out. I will lay my color all out. I will spray it down. It'll all be wet, and then I'll scrunch everything up on it, mix the paint right there on the canvas, or in this case on the paper, and then walk away and let it dry and see what I get. Paper's a little bit more finicky. I can't make adjustments quite as well as I can on canvas. It's just because I've switched over the years to using canvas instead of paper. Even though a lot of watercolor societies kind of still, you know what, I don't know. Watercolor societies at the time I was doing this originally were really frowning upon the use of canvas. I think watercolor canvas is an incredible opportunity to be able to use watercolor. There's a level of forgiveness involved, and there's things I can do here that don't necessarily always work out as well on paper. But I hope this encourages you to paint yourself. I want you to see that abstract painting is something that everybody can do. You have the skill set to do this. You can look at this and be like, oh my gosh, so those rocks, yeah, pretty sure my first grader could probably do that. Yeah, maybe. Show them a couple of techniques and they'll have it looking like this. And that's fine. You're not going to hurt, my feelings aren't going to be hurt. I'm too old for that crap. So, but hopefully this helps you see, like, using that trash bag gives you a lot of texture, and you can control the movement. You can go back in. I had another layer that I did here. I added another layer here, right? So I went back over. You can always come back over, add color, leave everything else dry around it, and only apply water where you want that additional texture, and you'll have it. Like, I'm considering whether or not this is it's a singular color. It's not enough of a mixture. I'm considering whether or not I need to come back into this section in here with another layer of watercolor. And that's why I need to have it upright. Well, anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope this gives you a little bit more additional insight into how a painting progresses and how an artist actually functions, or at least how me, as an artist, how I function. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to drop them down in the comments. More than happy to take the time to answer you. Is not a problem. So I hope y'all enjoy your day, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.